So we're here in the project. This is a little bit different than the stuff I usually put out, but that's the whole idea of the UNDRSIEGE Recordings label, is put stuff out that doesn't necessarily fit on Toolroom or any label that I release on, but I still like and I just want to put out there. What's not different though is, again, like everything I do, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So let's run through it. We got an atmospheric element, just a sample, some EQ, a plug sound, which is again a sample, some delay on it. Echo Boy Junior is great for all sorts of delays. Then we got the main melody. I made this using Serum 2, 3 oscillators, straightforward, simple, some glide on, so the melody bends a little bit, and then I got this Chaos LFO routed to the filter cutoff and the filter resonance. So when I play it, you can see these knobs are moving. And what this does is a simple sound, but because that's moving, the sound changes a little bit throughout the record. And then we got a lot of delay to give it that spacious feel. I think I might have got some effects going on in here as well. Yeah, flanger in the chorus just to make it wide. And then we got a trusty old high string in the breakdowns. Very simple. This is a patch, but you can recreate something similar by just having, I'll just do it quickly in here. So if you get a blank preset and then you just up the unison, detune. If you don't use detune, you get this. With detune, you get a string-like sound. It's not exactly the same, but it does the same thing. So we got that just to build some tension in the breakdowns. I got an auto pen to move it from the left to the right, and then a transgate to give it some rhythm without and with. That's it for the melodic elements. Then we got the vocals. Yeah. So I use these in the breakdowns. These are in audio because what I do, no, I don't have them here. So I take parts of the vocals and then I use a plugin. You can use any plugin that messes up the audio. You got loads of stuff. I think it was this one, the Replicant. Yeah, that's the one. So I just put the vocal on that track, flick through presets. If there's something I like, bounce it out to audio, and then you combine that until you get some of these effects. Which is great to just build tension again. I got this bit from the vocal with a lot of delay. I got a reverse vocal step, and then a rap vocal, which is just to give it a little bit extra. So the vocal as well is fairly simple vocal, but I use the same vocal and I take a step, I do the stutter vocals, a reverse, and that way you get different sections from a very simple vocal. And the main vocal is here.
You had your shot, then walked away. Thought I'd be stuck, but I'm okay. No one you want is gonna stay. Now when they see you lost away, you had your shot, then walked.
Vocal processing, I like to use the CLA vocals chain, which is a little bit of all-in-one, but it just sounds great. I like to use some vocal fun on there, again, to give it some more stutters, make it a bit cooler, a little bit of delay, gain automation, and then this is a rack I've built that just builds reverb, so we can check it here.
You lost away.
Which is a very big reverb basically, and then some track spacer to sidechain it a little bit against the kick. I automate this as well, so when the main vocal is playing here,
One is gonna stay.
it's not sidechaining a lot, but then when it's this, it's sidechaining more, so it pumps a little bit more. That's all for the vocals, I think. Then the kick, I used 3 layers. Kick I sampled, another sample, and a top kick, which is from a Toolroom sample pack. All together, I bounced into audio, and then I got this kick. Very simple. And then we got the bass. Also a couple of layers. This is the main bass, which is basically for a sub, a top bass, and a donk bass. Again, I bounce these all into audio, but I got the presets here. So let's loop this up so we can have a look. So this is the main bass, just a saw wave layered with a sub sine wave an octave lower. I got this one probably, routed to the filter. And something like this just gives you a very solid sub bass line. You got sine, you got saw for some extra frequencies. That's it. And then I just use some R bass on it, just to give it even more low end. Then we got the top bass. Again, saw kinda oscillator, but I used the basic mini. I assume it's from a Minimoog, just so I don't layer two of the same oscillators, because that can cause phasing and we don't want that. This is probably playing an octave higher, and apart from that it's just the same, I guess, copy from the above. Envelope to the cutoff, just to open it up so you can hear it more, and then to give it some more character, yeah, it's this one, so higher, which is basically an FM bass. So I got two sine waves, and then here you select FM from B, and you can open this up to give it more or less. So this is just sine waves, and this way you get that classic donk bass, which we used a lot back in the day, and I wanted to incorporate that in this record to give it that old school vibe. All together sounds like this. Obviously the top bass, I take out all the low end. This one has delay as well, and an auto pan. So usually on bass you don't want to have a delays on there or panning, but this is the top bass, so I got the sub bass, which is filling out the low end, and this top bass is to give it more top sound basically, and I can do delays and whatever on there because the sub is just simple and isn't moving, and that's the way I want it. I also got the donk bass, again took out the lows, also has some delays. And on this I also have the big reverb, so in the breakdowns it opens up. Right, hi-hats. Shaker loop, hi-hat loop, fast hi-hats, which is 3 loops, shakers coming in here, close hi-hat, which again is 3 hats, and then an open hat, which again is 3 hi-hats layered, and then some rides, which is just a loop. As always, I'm pitching down my rides here, just using the shifter. And all together that sounds like this. So as for the hi-hats, it's fairly simple. It's just a lot of layers, and that gives you a thick sound. But the sounds, it's nothing special, it's just samples from sample packs. Pick the one you like, but don't be afraid to layer a lot of them. Just gotta be careful. If you layer a lot of 909s, you're gonna get phasing, so you got to use your ears, and if you got phasing, just pick samples that sound different than the other. It doesn't make sense to layer like 5 hi-hats that sound exactly the same. Claps. Basic 909 or 808 sounding clap. layer pan to the left, layer pan to the right, all together. Sounds like this. On heads and claps, I've got my reverb thing going on again. Then some loops. So again, these loops are very simple, but just if I play you the hi-hats and claps without and with, it just fills out everything super nice. I tend to start with just hi-hats and claps and then adding loops in afterwards. I feel like a lot of people start with loops and then stop, but then if you do it that way, then your track's gonna sound like a loop. By doing it the other way around, so you got your foundation of hats and claps built from single hits, and then laying loops on top of that or underneath, it doesn't sound like that loop, but the loop fills out everything nice. And that's the way I prefer to do it. I got some percussion as well. Another top loop should probably be in the other group, but yeah. Simple percussion loop and another percussion loop. On this I got nothing, on this I have an auto pan, some delay, and then this should automate this, but it is working. Just to give it some extra movement, something I like to do. And we got this one as well. Which I think are my drums bounce out to audio, put in a plugin that messes up the sound, and then put back in here with waves doubler to make it wide, auto pan to give it movement, and a filter that's moving again, so this moves all the time, and again it's very subtle, but it gives it an extra moving element, which is quite nice. And altogether it sounds like this. On my bus I have this thing, which is a rack I built to make sounds a bit wider. Just give it a bit more side information, and then I usually use SSL just to compress the drums a little bit, and EQ to cut out the lows. Usually I do it on every group, but in this case I was lazy and I just done it on the percussion bus. Then we got snare roll, of course, and that's just the stock 99 kit. with volume automation. Very basic, and then we're almost there. Some effects. Got a texture here. Bubble down effect. Some risers. White noise. And this is nothing. And there we have it, that's everything. Let's play it. Play it from here. So that's everything. As I said, it's fairly simple. And you see I got some references underneath here. Melodies, old bounces. So I like to do bounces throughout the project. So I can load them in and reference back against what I'm doing to see if I'm improving it or making it worse. And then when I'm at a point where I think, okay, I'm quite happy with this, I bounce this off into stems. So this forces me to stop changing my mind about everything and just move forward instead of keep changing things. Because when you don't stop at a certain point, you keep on changing stuff and you never end up finishing anything. So that's why I like to bounce it off to audio. And then I go into a separate project where I do the final mix down. So now we are in the project where I've done my final mix down. As I said before, this gives me more control and less opportunity to keep on changing things. And also I cut my radio or streaming edit inside this project. So I just stem everything out in 10 or so stems. So I always take my kick, bass, hi-hats, claps, extra loops, I suppose this is, yeah, percussion, musical elements, vocals, effects, and my snare roll. So kick, nothing on there. Bass, a little bit more track spacer against the kick, just to give it a bit more separation. Hi-hats, took out the low end and some neutron, which I can show you the difference. Basically makes them come out of the mix a little bit more. Some equalizer, sculptor, God knows what this is, compression, density, exciter. Just makes it sound a little bit better. On the claps, I'm just taking out some low end. My extra loops, a little bit of track spacer against the kick. This is a great plugin. It's like sidechaining, but you can choose frequencies. So I can say like only sidechain everything below 250 like this. But in this case, I want to have everything. But it responds to the frequencies of the source signal. So I have the kick in there now, and it only side changes those frequencies where the kick is hitting. So this gives more space for the kick to come through, and also we cut some of the low end out. Percussion. A little bit of EQ. And again, some track space for against kick. Musical elements. EQ. Neutron. Adds a lot more top end, some compression. Again, final polish of the sounds. And then I got the vocals, and then I got the vocals but ran through Melodyne because some notes were off. Also on this one, EQ and neutron.
Then I walked away. Thought I'd be stuck, but I'm okay. No one you want is gonna stay. Now when they see you lost away.
Just again to make it sound a little bit better. And then we got the effects. Equalizer. And then my snare roll, got nothing on there. So basically we got EQ on every channel, and then sometimes a little bit extra processing if I feel like it needs it. And then you can see like very minor changes. So the kick is minus 0.2, bass minus 0.5. Head's a little bit softer, but again, you got to take into account that the neutron makes it a bit louder as well. Clap a little bit down. So basically this gives me the freedom to quickly rebalance all the elements until I'm happy with the mix. And then for the streaming edit, I just take these parts and I cut a short edit for streaming, because you know you can't put a 5-minute track on Spotify, so I just make it short and sweet, vocal coming in straight away.
You had your shot, then walked away. Thought I'd be stuck, but I'm okay.
Shortened the breakdown a little bit. And then cut off at the end. And then I do a little bit of mastering just so I have something to play out and to reference against other stuff. I love the Waves Kramer master tape. Very subtle compression. A little bit of clipping just to shave off some of the dynamics. A little bit of equalizing. An utility that does nothing at all. Pro L2, which is off now, but should be on. And then some inflator. And then Ozone 12 with the maximizer off. little bit of equalizing low end focus. Some stereo imaging, dynamic EQ, and a maximizer. So I put this on there just to reference and to have a demo that I can play out. But I use a mastering engineer for everything. So I just take this off and send it to him as my pre-master, and then he does the mastering. I prefer having someone else to listen to my track. He also gives me great pointers, so he's like, maybe the kick a little bit louder or quieter. In this instance, he also said to me, like, I think your vocal's not 100% correct, so I went in with Melodyne to fix it. Yeah, for stuff like that, it's great to have someone else to master your stuff. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned a thing or two, and if you want, feel free to subscribe. I'll be doing more of these in the future.